All right. I want to clear the air a little bit here because there seems to be a little bit of confusion with our vast following of listeners and viewers. So, number one, this YouTube project was the brainchild of The Economist, and he runs this program. So, when you subscribe and when you leave us a comment down below, he sees it and doesn't necessarily tell me or the accountant that there's comments to reply to. So, we do want your comments. But specify if you want one of us to reply, because the Economist is in charge of this vast empire that is YouTube. Now, that's part one. Now, part two of it is I want to ask you guys a couple of questions. And when we get into talking about what we're actually talking about in this quick hit, which is Tontines, the first question I have is I've been asked already, where did the name come from, Drams for Dividends?
Right. So, since it was my project, thanks for saying Tontines. That hardly counts. You got to say it. Tontines.
That's how it's got to be said. And I think it's exempt from this episode since it's the show topic and people may die.
Well, that's fair. Yeah.
People play at their own risk, right?
Yeah. This is for entertainment purposes only, and only follow our advice at your own risk.
Yeah.
So I did get chirped about not having drams. So that's why my question is drams for dividends. So you'll notice tonight I am having a dram. And this dram is brought to you by my Enbridge dividend for March. So there's the dram for dividends. But where did the name come from, Economist?
Well, I didn't know what to call it. And since it was my project, I put it out on Twitter and said, what should we call our new segment, Mondays, YouTube,
Right.
FI Garage Guys. And, well, we only got one reply, so I went with that one.
I love when you get to choose from 100% of
Exactly.
the options.
But it was the Money Master.
Nice.
Suggested it, and we went with it.
And he was also the one that chirped me for drinking a beer.
I think we all chirped you for drinking a beer.
Well, that's fair.
Everybody chirped you for drinking a beer.
All right. Well, I'm dramming this time, so cheers, gentlemen.
Cheers. I have the Booker's this time.
Oh, nice one.
Oh,
It was hard to get open, but I finally succeeded.
Looks that way.
And
I'm once again rocking a little Oban 14.
Ooh, beautiful. You know,
Yeah.
I just because we don't talk about the Scotch and the whiskeys very often, we just say that we're drinking them. I just want to throw out there that Black Label is like a house Scotch. It's a value priced blend of 12-year-old Scotches, and it has the flavors of the northern whiskeys that I really like. And so that's why I'm shouting out, and that's why I like the Black Label. Probably going to have it a few more times on these little quick hits.
It's not as good coming up as it is going down.
That's the story for another time.
yes. So
Anyway, let's jump into what we're actually talking about. I'm not at home. I am on the road doing my real job for a change. But you jackwagons, do we need to pause when you say something so people can see? Yeah. You jackwagons have been laughing and poking fun at me and shouting tontine on our FI Garage podcast for probably about 8 months now. And it started to drive me crazy for a while. I'm not going to lie. It pissed me off. But when you finally sent the article that we'll reference in this episode, and when you give it a good read, it makes a lot of sense. So start us off. What do you think? Who found that? Was it the accountant that found that article, or you, the economist?
the accountant found it, and it was the Washington Post, and it's called "It's Sleazy, It's Totally Illegal, and Yet It Could Become the Future of Retirement."
So what does that mean?
So the basic principle and why it's sleazy is that a group of people puts their money into a pot and they get fixed payments out of that pot. But as people in that pot die off, your payments increase. So the sleazy part is that when this blew up in the late 1800s, there was a lot of murder involved.
I didn't read that in the article.
That's not in the article. That is my own personal research after I read the article, because I was like, this makes a lot of sense for a retirement plan.
Right. But so does the killing people. Make a lot of sense if you're short on cash, right?
Okay. The sleazy part, though, I think is it's one of those things that may be blown out of proportion a little bit, because if you actually dig into what this thing is, it's been used for hundreds of years, and it's actually a pretty productive way to have money, greater amounts of money being paid to you in your retirement. It's better than an annuity.
Well, it's the backbone of annuities. It's what started off creating all of these things. So if you think about it, you get 25 other people your age and you all put in 100 grand and you got 2.5 million and you earn some interest and you figure out actuarially how long you're all expected to live and you get fixed income. Now, not everybody is going to live the same length of time. So as people drop out of that pool, this is the morbid part of it, is as people drop out of that pool, you're going to have greater and greater payouts over time. Not to mention, it's not backed by an insurance company like an annuity is. So you're getting better rates of return. You're getting a better consistent cash flow back into your pocket.
That's if it's a self-administered tontine.
Self-administered tontine, right?
And the self-administered is where the sleazy
that's
comes
where your
in,
sleazy murder town comes from. Yes.
You have more, you know who's in the tontine, right? If it was a state-run tontine, you don't know who to kill.
Well, isn't this almost a better way of your CPP? So everybody that is your age, born in the country in that year, gets lumped into that pool of money, and you all get the share of that pool of money.
It's interesting though, because your payments in a tontine will be ever increasing, right?
Yeah.
Whereas your retirement is probably, well, could be more of a U-shaped or a downward slope of spending, because you're able to do more things early in your retirement, so you spend more money.
Absolutely.
And then as you become less able, you do less, and then eventually the healthcare costs will ramp up, right? So in that sense, it's not that appealing, but on the other hand, it is appealing to cover off costs that you're unsure you'll incur at the end of your life. So if you want to plan your own retirement till you're 80 and then have the tontine cover your expenses from 80 on, that could be a work around.
Well, this might actually fit really well into the FIRE lifestyle, because one of the things we've talked about a lot is the longevity risk of your FIRE plan. So you've created an early retirement. You've figured that you've got money till you're 85 or 90, but healthcare improves, and now you're living to 105. The tontine is paying you more the longer you live.
Yeah.
Right. And I think what got me is like the really interesting part was, just reading that article, because it dives into a little bit of the history. It doesn't go into more of it, but these were super popular in the 1800s in North America. They were popular in Europe before that. And they were so popular. And it was because of the corruption and the abuse of them that they became outlawed. But this was like the backbone of what is now our insurance industry, which is an interesting thing to sort of understand and think about.
Well, it makes sense, because really it is just a finite version of insurance, where an insurance scheme today is more, it's theoretical more than finite, right?
Right. I mean, you're definitely the one that knows much more about the actuarial side of this than we do. From that standpoint, as an economist, understanding that actuarial kind of point of view, would there ever be a case for this to be brought in? Obviously, we wouldn't call it a tontine, but is it something that could be reintroduced as a program? And one of the things that caught me in that article as well is that it was a way for the state to generate an instant amount of revenue. Like, we buy in an annuity, but all that money that we put into it goes to an institution, goes to a company that's making money off us and guarantees us a fixed low rate of return. Whereas maybe this is state sponsored and they get the cash up front, and then you're going to get an increasing payment. Is there any reality in this?
Well, I mean, you can design it however, whatever way you want, but that scheme, which totally existed, differs in the self-administered tontine, where all the money's coming back to you, which is more enticing, probably, right?
Right. It's a gamble.
Well, they're both gambles. Both.
Yeah. I mean, you're essentially gambling that, hey, I'm in better health. I'm going to outlive these people. I'm going to end up getting more of the money back.
Right. It's a good gamble.
Well,
Like,
okay. There's a point to be made here too, though, that when this is initiated, you're getting a constant stream of payments. It's not like you've put your money away and you don't get a cent of it until you're the last person.
Again, you can design this any way you'd like, right? There could be a 20-year period where you don't have payments, and then you get higher payments starting.
and then payments commence,
right?
whatever.
So I mean, it can be designed any way you like. It's totally just a different insurance scheme, really.
Well, it was the original insurance scheme.
Yeah.
I think that's it. I didn't know when you guys first started saying that on the show, and I'm going, well, I know they're illegal, but I don't know why.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And I don't think we should cross something off the list of potential tools. In, the world has changed so much. We're facing different financial pressures and income problems for seniors and things like that. We're relying on systems in place that maybe they function, maybe they don't, maybe not for everybody. What do you call it? You come up with a new name for it? I don't know. It's interesting the more you learn about it, for sure.
I mean, you don't really want to come up with a new name for it, because tontine is just fun to say. There's no denying that.
Yes, it is.
What
but
else
it is
did you?
a group insurance, essentially.
Yeah. What else did you pull out from that article that you thought was interesting in the sense of, reading it? And to me, it's like the things that pulled out that were like, oh, that actually makes sense. Did you guys find anything in there that you read? You're like, oh, that's something a little different that makes sense.
Well, that the original selling point was that it was kind of like a gamble.
Well, I know you like that.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. So each of us puts in our 10 grand worth of Bitcoin, and that's our tontine.
Right. Could go to zero though. Before any of us are dead.
At least if we come up with a new name, it's not illegal.
That's not necessarily true.
True.
And I guess this is another point where we say for entertainment purposes.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Another one of the things that I read on it was because of people's gambling nature, it actually encouraged a lot more savings.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Because people said, hey, I want to take this gamble on having this income. I bet that I'm going to outlive all these people and I'm going to end up taking a whole bunch of their money with me.
Yeah.
And it actually encouraged a whole bunch of people to save and plan for retirement, because at the heart of it, I think psychologically, a lot of us are gamblers.
And really, every pension plan is a tontine. Like, let's not kid ourselves. That is exactly what it is. It's just not finite. Like, there's a pool of people, but it is a tontine. They're using the money from people who die early to pay the money of people who die late. There's just not an increasing pension payment unless you're indexed. But
so does that mean that they've kind of pulled the wool over our eyes and they've used the model, they outlawed it from private usage and then created a commercial model that was a revenue generating product?
I mean, to some extent, but the key difference is that in the pension plan, the payments don't actually increase as people die off. That's the key difference.
But they could.
They could.
Why not? Where does that money go? Where does your CPP go when it doesn't get passed on to your heirs?
No, it's not finite, right? It's actuarially derived. So instead of taking a pool of 100 people and paying out the people who survive from the people who die early, they just predict when everybody's going to die. And they base it on the prediction. And they do a constant payment based on the prediction of when people will die.
So I don't get all my CPP money that I am deserved.
If you die young, you don't.
Right. But nobody else gets it either.
Well, no, but they can afford to pay you $900 instead of $850 because some people will die young.
Sounds like tontine to me.
This is going to be a boozy episode for anybody playing along with the drinking game.
Absolutely.
I guess the thing that just struck me is that, you know, I totally see how there could be a sleazy side to this. And part of that article talks about all the corruption that happened back then, and how, you know, newspapers were subject to bribery and the promotion of this product. And I'm sure everybody in a small town was creating their own. And there was, you know, there's not that you want regulation, but at a certain point there needs to be some form of regulation. And obviously we probably agree the key to this is anonymity. You don't want to know who's in it, right? Because that does give you ulterior motive. So yeah, but I think the point to realize is that this does exist in a shape or form or a derivative of what it used to be.
And, you know, just to kind of pile on the sleazy aspect of this, you don't have to go around murdering your friends, but you could just not save them. Were they in a position to be to be saved, right? I mean, doesn't have to be active. Yeah, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, this could get real sleazy.
Yeah.
Well, and it did for a while.
I mean, what, like you guys are just like keep mailing me whiskey to the house? So.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think that would be financially a win for us, though.
Yeah. Well, I want age leverage. I want an age handicap.
Well, that's another thing, right?
Yeah.
Who's in your tontine with you?
Yeah. No, exactly.
If you just had a new baby, you better get them in the latest tontine.
Yeah, like I want a tontine full of trapeze artists at the circus for sure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right on.
Okay.
Anything else to finish up with that one?
Read the article.
Read the article.
Yeah,
it is amazing.
Read the article.
That is the backbone of modern insurance. It's kind of shocking.
It's a good coffee break article if you're sitting at work and you got 15 minutes while you're drinking your coffee. It's not a super long read, but it is pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Okay, so hit subscribe. Is that what we say?
Yep.
We're still not good at YouTube.
No, nor will we ever be.
Well, 20.
20 nor am I able to finish a whole dram in a quick hit. Come on, let's be real.
Unless we start yelling Tontines all the time.
Oh, cool. There's no way this is nice scotch. I'm not drinking it that fast. This is the rest of the night now.
Yeah.
There you go.
Okay.
All right, boys. I'll be back home for another full podcast episode, and we'll see all the viewers and listeners. Wait a minute. You're supposed to do the X's. Your project.
I did. I said subscribe. Make a comment.
That's it.
Hello to that guy.
All right. Catch you later.
Farewell.